It's wonderful to be back in Birmingham again. It's civilization concerned where I come from, and it's a real pleasure and a privilege to be back here. Thank you for inviting me to the church for the launch. We've launched the Manifesto in Wales and in Scotland. So this is the third time that we're running this through, but this is for England, and we're seeing some new things happening. We're seeing some new situations occurring now. We have, someone said, a line of almost a start of a joke. 5 politicians walked into a church. And but this isn't a joke. This is what politicians are doing right here, right now. Why are they doing this? Because there's an election. Yeah. This is why you see politicians in churches. We're asked on the TV and on the radio whether we agree with Mr. Cameron when he says that this is a Christian country and he defends our rights as Christians. And they ask us why we're smiling somewhat wryly, because we know why he's doing it. We know why he's attending these festivals of light of 45,000 voters. We know why he's attending these things. We know why avowed atheists are attending churches, reading sermons and bowing their heads respectfully in prayer. Why they're there? They're there because they know how powerful and influential the Christian vote is in this nation. Yes. But they also know their track record over the last 10 to 15 years. And that's the tragedy of it. That's the challenge that we have. The days where the general population, and certainly the church population, would trust the politicians to do what was right seem to be long gone. Those days of the, shall we say, the British way of doing things has changed. David Cameron himself has come up with a defined set of British values, the things that he thought defined us. Unfortunately, it seemed to be as we were nice to each other and we played a bit of cricket. It didn't seem to go much further than that. The challenge we have is society's going downhill as we go on this track. It's changing. The very essence of our country's changing. And it's not nice, it's not comfortable. There is a liberal secularist agenda that seems to be at work. They seem to be aiming to silence the Christian voice. That's the way it goes. We have proof that there are state agencies targeting Christian businesses. The Equality and Human Rights Commission, for one. They're targeting Christian businesses to make sure they toe the line with the new equality regulations, even if these things go against God's word and their faith. And they're saying, you know, you must do this or change your business pattern, which is what a number of businesses are having to do. This is equality? No. Tolerance? Maybe. But it's tolerance, and it's only one way. And that's the challenge we're facing. This manifesto here has to appeal to the common man. Joe Public in the street has to be able to understand this and say, it makes sense. And that's what's happening now, which is really good. And as I said earlier, even other political parties are reading through it thinking, yeah, there's a lot of common sense in this. We know where that common sense comes from. As I said earlier, divinely inspired. But the truth is we serve all people. And that's the nice thing about it. And having the ability to do that is truly amazing. We've had the 3 main party leaders talk over the last couple of days, expounding the virtues of Christianity and the church and everything else they do. We've had, say, David Cameron and Miliband and Clegg also around saying what a wonderful institution it is. The fact that we're feeding in excess, I think it was 900,000 plus meals are being provided by food banks across the nation. The figure may be well in excess of 1 million actually, but of course they like us doing this. They like us fixing the problems. Do we charge for food banks? No. Do we charge for the care in the community that we do? No. We do it because of Christ's love in us and we want to reach out to our fellow brothers and sisters. That's what we rely on. They rely on us to do that. God forbid the Christian church ever turned around and said, I don't want to do this anymore, because it would cost the country hundreds of millions of pounds to replace that. And actually they're looking at re-engaging. On the NHS side, I had some very interesting conversations with some consultants that were saying the trouble they're having with bed blocking is that you have older people that are in the beds, but they can't send them home because they can't be trusted to look after themselves, and they don't have the family around them anymore because everyone's moved away. is there a way that the churches could re-engage with that situation and organise to have maybe 1 or 2 visits a day just to check up on that person and make sure they're okay? They'd say, well, I'm sure we could figure something out like that. That wouldn't be too much of a problem. And so now they're saying, well, if you could do that, it unblocks the bed. The NHS then starts to flow more freely. And a solution is being found via the Christian church, which is amazing that they're now coming back to the people that established the hospitals in the first place. Who established the hospitals? Church did. Who established the schools? Church did. That's what we do. Yeah. And the nice thing about it is when these things were built, they were mostly sort of Victorian time. They were built by Victorian philanthropists, which is a tough word to say this time of day, that spent the first half of their life making money and the second half giving it away for the betterment of their fellow man. And that's the point. I've been spoken before, I consider myself to be a compassionate capitalist, which is a capitalist with a heart, looking to serve others. The challenge we have at the moment is most of our capitalists don't have one. That Christian conscience has been removed. The reason we had the challenge with the banks is there was never enough money. If they had all the money in the world apart from £1, they want to know where the pound was. And that Christian conscience, that concern for your fellow man has been taken out. What we have to do is put it back into society. We have to put it back, that you are responsible, you are your brother's keeper. That's the point. Unfortunately, the other parties will try to legislate that and say we're going to increase taxes and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And there's one thing I've learned over my years as a businessman is you can't tax the rich. You can't do it. Because they shoot, they flee, they disappear. Ask France. France tried it, didn't they? Socialist government came in, fantastic, we're going to increase the tax on all the millionaires. Where do all the millionaires go? London. That's what they do. You can't tax the rich. It doesn't work that way. Okay, they're too flexible, it's too fluid. In today's age, where international borders are crossed in the click of a mouse, companies we've used today, eBay, where is eBay based? Luxembourg. And yet we use it here in the UK. We buy and sell things, we don't think about it. That's the world we live in. Why are they based in Luxembourg? Favourable tax. It's not rocket science. How do you clamp down on that? They couldn't do it legally. Now they've had to basically almost embarrass them into paying tax. Same with Google as well. They're embarrassing them into paying the tax that's due. But legally, they don't have a leg to stand on because of the world that we live in. That's basically, most of it is now in cyberspace. Whoever would have thought? When I left school, which was a few years ago, I managed to leave school at the age of 16 without actually touching a computer. You know, for you younger people, that would obviously be lunacy. Now we have kids before they even go to school can operate a computer better than I. Take them apart and rebuild them, which is scary, but that's what happens. That's the world we live in. And that's the world we have to be engaged in. But it's fun. It does give us new opportunities. The reason is that we can now launch this, obviously via the TV and the internet and everything else. Clips can go out via Twitter and YouTube and everything else. We can talk to hundreds, thousands of people in a heartbeat. The reason that we're using it on the for the hustings is that we sent out Twitter comments going out saying we've been banned again, we've been forgotten about again, and suddenly these Cardiff University has been inundated with emails and requests saying, please, can we hear the Christian voice, please? Okay, so it is out there for us to use, but that's the world we live in. So what of the future? Where do we take this from now? Obviously speaking here in a church in the lovely city of Birmingham again, I think that in some ways the church has done a disservice to its people in the fact that it hasn't encouraged people to engage with the political process. Okay? I'll be the first to admit that politics is not fun. You need a thick skin. They will not wait for you to turn around to stab you in the back. They will very happily stab you in the chest. It's happened to me on numerous occasions, and that's at town council level. So what it's like at Westminster, the Lord only knows. We'll find out one day. But it's not a pleasant business. It's hard. People will smile at you and then lie, and that's the nature of it. But we need to bring people into a situation where they say, it is an area that we need to engage with. It affects all our lives. The joke always has been, religion and politics don't mix, but no one told the politicians. The church moves away, the politicians move in, they legislate over us, and we have to abide by these new laws. The new laws are coming in thick and fast from our own Westminster and from Europe. And that's the challenge that we have. And if we're not careful, we'll be legislated out the game, or put down into such a small degree we won't be able to declare common held truths. To be able to turn around and say Jesus is Lord, we'll say, well, unfortunately you can't say that because you might offend somebody else. So you can't say that Jesus is the way. You say, I believe Jesus is the way. You have to start thinking along these lines. That's not freedom if they're telling you how to be free. Inscribed into the stone floor of the central lobby of the Houses of Parliament are the words from Psalm 127, written in Latin, probably need a translation by now. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labour in vain. Ironic, isn't it? The very foundations they're looking to undermine are the ones that they are now trying to build on with their own legislation. Once again, our politicians are learning that these are anything but empty words. This is, and always should be, and always will be, a Christian nation. It needs to respect its heritage and its past. It was great when it did, and it will be great in the future. We have a lot of faith in this country, have a lot of hope, and a desire to see things improve, not just for Christians, but for all people. But the freedoms we enjoy, as I've said previously, were hard fought for, and they've been let go somewhat cheaply. And that is a shame, and that is a terrible indictment. And I want to make sure that it doesn't happen on my watch, on our watch, that there is a chance to save this nation and to do what's right. We have an influence far greater than our size in this world. People still look to us, our brothers and sisters in the Commonwealth, who we, in some ways, have disrespected over the last few years. Since the European experiment started, 97 with the Maastricht Agreement, we really have let down some of those very, very special links. We really have. And it's a shame. It's a crime, and it needs to be addressed. So I will close this by saying thank you very much for coming. We're excited by the elections that are coming up. We're thankful for the items we can get put on the agenda. The new things that we can bring forward that other parties are now starting to talk about. But I say, don't expect to see many politicians in church the week after the election. But if you know they're coming, go and see them. Ask the questions. You've got another week or two to do that. And they are very, very excited by the Christian vote. Look at the work they're doing. Every party knows they've let us down. Every single one of them. Okay? We could go into the last 10 to 15 years and we could itemize each time that they've done something that's gone against God's word and the country's suffered for it. They know that they need us. We know that we need to be there as salt and light in this situation. So we're standing. We encourage you to help us. Obviously, as a party, we are same as you guys. Just Christian brothers and sisters that God's called to stand up and make a fuss sometimes, make a stand most of the time. And we're beholden to no one, which is a really comforting thing to say. We have no big financial investors. We have no one that will tell us what to do or how to do it. No one. It's just God's word and Christian brothers and sisters that come together and say, we believe this is what the Lord wants us to do with our nation. This is the manifesto we're using. And